Hello, it looks like I'm live. I'm commandeered an office here at the church. We're at the Victory Baptist Church in Cassville, Missouri, and I'm just kind of hanging around. And we had some meetings, and then we had some business meetings and stuff with our Fellowship of Evangelists, and so I'm just here. And I figured, well, I didn't want to go driving all over the country. I'll take a nap out in the car in a little while and get rested up for tonight. But I couldn't do my program again because I didn't have enough signal down at the camp. And so what I do tonight to this afternoon is I just found a quiet spot and I'm going to do our Bible study from here. We've moved on to chapter 24. And this is the parable or the sign of the figs about Judah would be yet restored, but it's for the far future. It's not for the second deportation. It's not a very long prophecy. It has to do specifically with Judah and not at this particular time in 599 BC, right about the same time as we were at yesterday when we finished up God's judgment upon the prophets and the lying prophets and the lying priests, but mainly the lying prophets whom he had not spoken to. And so here in chapter 24, we're going to get into a new deal. And it's about the same time. I've always, most people say it was in 599 because Zedekiah is king and they're talking about the Chaldeans and they're talking about being carried away. And it also talks about how Jeconiah had already been carried away. And so I believe this is in 599. It could have been a little bit later, a little bit earlier. It's hard to know. It's like I'm always saying, we don't have a video with timestamps, so it's kind of hard to tell, which is what. We'll just back up and conclude the judgment on the prophets from yesterday, beginning in verse 34, chapter 23. And as for the prophet, and this is God talking through Jeremiah, and as for the prophet and the priest and the people, they shall say, the burden of the Lord, I will even punish that man in his house. Thus shall ye say every one to his neighbor, and every one to his brother, what hath the Lord answered? And what hath the Lord spoken? And the burden of the Lord shall ye mention no more. For every man's word shall be his burden. For ye have perverted the words of the living God, of the Lord of hosts, our God. Thus shalt thou say to the prophet, this is God talking to Jeremiah, what hath the Lord answered thee, and what hath the Lord spoken? But since ye say the burden of the Lord, therefore thus saith the Lord, because you say this word, the burden of the Lord, and I have not sent you, saying, ye shall not say the burden of the Lord. What he's saying here is, he says, you're saying that you have a burden for me. You're saying that you have a message from me, the God of Israel, the God of Judah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But I didn't send you, and I didn't give you a word. And so he's just saying, therefore, behold, I will utterly forget you. Good afternoon, Charlie. And I will forsake you and the city that I gave you and your fathers, and cast you out of my presence. And I will bring an everlasting reproach upon you. When you lie in the name of the Lord, it lasts forever, the reproach does. Even if you're forgiven and you go on to do something else later, it'll never be as big as it was. It'll never be as good as it was. It'll never be as good as it could possibly have been because you have betrayed your service to the Lord. You have betrayed your master. Can you be restored? Yes. But, because of mistakes or because of sins I committed early in my life, as I've told you many times before, they're not going to call me to be the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Dallas. It ain't going to happen. So what might have been can't be because of my sin. Doesn't mean he won't use you. But once you betray the trust, everybody will know that you did it. And so they won't have you, even though God has restored and blessed you. And I will bring an everlasting reproach upon you and a perpetual shame which shall not be forgotten. Let me tell you something, Pastor. You run off with a piano player, even if you bring her back, everybody's going to remember. You'd have to go someplace where they don't know you, which is harder and harder to do nowadays. We're going to move on to chapter 24 again. Zedekiah is the king now. I believe it's around 599 BC. In verse 1, Jeremiah speaking. And he says, the Lord showed me, and behold, and I believe that Baruch wrote this because of the way that it's written, the scribe, Jeremiah's assistant. We haven't talked a lot about him yet, but he's going to come more into play here pretty quick. The Lord showed me, and behold, 2 baskets of figs that were set before the temple of the Lord, after that Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away captive Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah. This was the first captivity. Remember, I told you that Jeconiah actually obeyed the Lord and went out and surrendered to Nebuchadnezzar. And Nebuchadnezzar took him captive, but he didn't kill him. And he didn't kill his wives, and he didn't kill his children. They took them all into captivity. And it says that, he carried away captive Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, and the princes of Judah with the carpenters and smiths from Jerusalem, and brought them to Babylon. All the rich people, much of the king's court. And then Nebuchadnezzar put Zedekiah, Jehoiakim's brother, and Jeconiah's uncle, put him on the throne. He was the last king. And he was the king we've been talking about here for the last several chapters, King Zedekiah. And after Nebuchadnezzar took Jeconiah and all the princes away, that first captivity, which included, by the way, as I've explained, Ezekiel and Daniel. It included both of them. Jeremiah saw 2 baskets of figs set before the temple of the Lord. And verse 2, 1 basket had very good figs, even like the figs that are first ripe. Now, if any of you ever had a fig tree, if you pick the figs too soon and they're kind of fuzzy and they're bitter and they'll burn your lips from that fuzz on the fig. 1 basket had very good figs, even the figs that are first ripe. And the other basket had very naughty figs. I used to ask Daddy, what did they do? Did they tell dirty jokes or something? Or were they telling being nasty? Very naughty figs. They were just awful. They were rotten. Naughty in 1611 had a little bit different meaning than it does now. It meant something that was ruined, that was bruised, that was deteriorated, that was going rotten. You might as well just had 1 basket of good figs and then another basket of rotten figs, which could not be eaten. They were so bad. So take the picture of the 2 baskets of figs, one that are perfectly ripe and one that had hung on the tree and fallen on the ground and got stepped on by the goats and the sheep. And what they didn't eat, you gather up into a basket. 1 basket had very good figs, even like the figs that are first ripe. And the other basket had very naughty figs, which could not be eaten. They were so bad. God put this vision before him. the way I'm staggering through this, let's just back up a verse, get everything in context, in time. Verse 1, chapter 24, the Lord showed me, and behold, 2 baskets of figs were set before the temple of the Lord after the Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Yes, I understand it says Nebuchadrezzar here. Sometimes it's written Nebuchadrezzar, sometimes it's written Nebuchadnezzar. It's the same guy who was known in secular history as Nebuchadnezzar the second. So, the Lord showed me, and behold, 2 baskets of figs were set before the temple of the Lord after that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away captive Jeconiah, also known as Coniah, also known as Jehoiachin, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and the princes of Judah, and the carpenters and smiths from Jerusalem, and had brought them to Babylon. 1 basket had very good figs, like the figs that are first ripe. And the other basket had very naughty figs, which could not be eaten, they were so bad. Then said the Lord unto me, what seest thou, Jeremiah? And I said, figs. What'd you expect me to see, Lord? You set baskets of figs before me. What do you expect me to see? I see figs. Then said the Lord unto me, what seest thou, Jeremiah? And I said, figs. The good figs, very good. The evil, very evil. They could not be eaten. They are so evil. I've never considered food as evil, except for maybe some stuff you eat after 11 o'clock at night when you're driving down the road and trying to stay awake. You ever get that pizza to go, like it come and go, and it's like one slice, and it's all been under the heat lamp, it's all melted. You take a bite, and that cheese goes down on your chin and burns your chin and drops down inside your shirt, burns you down there too, and you're like trying to put yourself out, and you got pizza sauce all over you, and maybe things like that only happen to me. I don't know, but that come and go pizza at 11 o'clock or midnight, driving down the road and eating, that's pretty evil. Then said the Lord unto me, what seest thou, Jeremiah? And I said, figs, the good figs, very good. The evil, very evil, that cannot be eaten. They are so evil, those naughty figs. And again the word of the Lord came unto me, Jeremiah, saying, thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel. You can always tell what God's talking about by how he names himself, the God of Israel. When he says the God of Israel, he means all of them. He doesn't just mean Judah. He doesn't just mean Jacob. It doesn't just mean Judah. He doesn't just mean Israel. He remembers. He means all the 12 tribes. He remembers all of the sons and the children of Israel, the sons and descendants of Jacob. Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel. Like these good figs, so will I acknowledge them that are carried away captive of Judah, whom I have sent out of this place into the land of the Chaldeans for their good. Remember what the deal was? Before Nebuchadnezzar's army got there, God says, if you return to me, he's preaching this through Jeremiah, if you return to me, I'll save your life. When he didn't get very many takers, he gave him an even better deal. This was after Nebuchadnezzar's army had landed by sea near modern-day Tel Aviv and were pushing across the frontier toward Jerusalem. The invading army was in the land. He offered him a better deal. He said, look, if you surrender to Nebuchadnezzar, it doesn't matter whether you return to me or not. I'll still save your life if you'll just surrender and not fight him, because I'm using him. I'm using him to punish Judah. You're just getting in my way by fighting, God says. You're just taking up time. Before he said that, he had offered him an in-between deal before Nebuchadnezzar landed his army, but he was on the way, and he had already taken Israel, the northern kingdom, from the Assyrians. The deal that God offered, that in-between deal, he said, not only will I save your life if you come return to me. If you return to me, then I'll save your life, and I won't take you into captivity. I'll let you stay here. You know, you can find you a piece of land that either your land or land that's been abandoned by somebody who's dead or captured. You can grow your own food. You can drink out of your own well, plant a vineyard, do whatever you want to do. If you just return to me. The deal finally became, after Nebuchadnezzar landed his army by sea, the deal finally became, if you just surrender to Nebuchadnezzar, whether you return to me or not, I'll save your life. You'll still go into captivity, but I'll save your life. Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, who was king, he did that. And he walked out of Jerusalem, walked out of the gates, gave Nebuchadnezzar presents of gold and silver. Nebuchadnezzar took his wives, his kids, his family, the princes, the seed royal, and Jeconiah. He took them to Babylon captive. But we found out later, remember, that over 30 years after this episode, that Nebuchadnezzar's son, what's his name? Nabonidus. He took pity on Jeconiah, took him out of prison, let him eat at the king's table. This is a deal. God is assuring them. He says, look, like these good figs, so will I acknowledge them that were carried away captive of Judah. These are the ones that went out in the first captivity. Jeconiah, most of the royal house, at least his wives, his children, his family, the prince's royal, the seed royal, many of the princes and the priests and the higher ups in the court, they went into Babylon. This is like these good figs, so will I acknowledge them that are carried away captive to Judah, whom I have sent out of this place into the land of the Chaldeans, for they are good. I'm taking them out of here so I don't have to kill them, or rather have Nebuchadnezzar's armies kill them. God kept his word. Ezekiel wasn't killed. Hi, Kevin. Ezekiel was prophesying at the same time in the land of Babylon. Daniel, he was in the house of the eunuchs, learning how to be an advisor and a counselor to King Nebuchadnezzar. He wasn't killed. So you see, God made good on his word. He said, I'm sending them out there, sending them back to Babylon, and it's going to be for their good. Then in 6, God says, for I will set mine eyes upon them for good, and I'll bring them again to this land, and I'll build them and not pull them down, and I will plant them and not pluck them up. We're going to get into the parable, not the parable, but the promise of the 70 years here, I think, in the next chapter, but very soon. Judah would be in captivity in Babylon for 70 years. When Daniel's a very old man, they'll come back, and there'll be some people that would live to see the destruction of the first temple and to see the laying of the foundations of the second temple. We see that in the book of Ezra. And so God says, I'm doing it for their good. I'm not used to this position. I'm sorry it got out of line. I'm using like some kind of desk tray that's got pens and stuff in it. There's a little nook that I can stick this phone in. God is making good on his word. He's telling people, he said, look, these people that come out and surrender to Nebuchadnezzar, I'll let them live. I'll take care of them. I'm saving them by having them captured and not killed. This goes against everything dear to the American character. because we want to fight back. We want to be Rambo, man. Rambo, when he's being interrogated by the Kong, and you remember what he tells them when they want to know stuff too. It's all pretty nasty, kind of like in Naughty Figs. But you get the attitude that you can't have a reason. The Kongs ain't going to have a reasonable conversation with Rambo. Well, that's the way it is with America. If God told these people to surrender, and they said, no, we're going to fight, well, we would say we're going to fight too. You know, I ain't saying I've never been whipped. I have. I've been whooped real bad, but I give each and every one of them guys a chance to get in there and get the job done. You know, if they want to whip me, just bring a sack lunch and let's go for it. I'm ready. Of course, it wouldn't take long nowadays because I'm so weak. You know, I wouldn't even make an appetizer to somebody who wanted to fight. The world has taken all the fight out of me, and the love of Christ has made me able to laugh at it, because he is the giver of every good gift and he is sovereign. And if he wants me to be weak and sick half the time, hey, he's the boss. He's in charge. I know that it's for my good. I know he's trying to teach me something. I know he wants to call the shots. Remember, just like Paul, he says that Jesus says that his strength is made perfect in weakness. So if Jimmy's weak, it's a good chance for Jesus to show his strength, because I can't do things on my own. He has to do them. He even has to make me understand this word that I'll never get tired of talking about. For I will set my eyes upon them for good, and I'll bring them again to this land, and will not. I will build them and not pull them down. I will plant them and not pluck them up. And I'll give them a heart to know me. A heart. He gave them a law. He gave them regulations. He gave them a temple. He gave them a ritual. He gave them a religious structure, a sacrificial system, a system of priests. Without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. It all pointed to the cross. The moral law, the ceremonial law, the whole thing. It was conditional. God says, you do this for me and I'll do that for you. But what he's going to give the people is a heart that they could know him. I will give them a heart to know me, God says. And they shall be my people. I'll give them a heart to know me, that I am the Lord. And they shall be my people. And I will be their God. You see, if he gives you a heart for him, you can be his people and he'll be your God. That's what happens when we get saved. Jesus changes our heart. The Holy Spirit comes to live inside of us. Jesus comes in our heart. Jesus comes to live with us. He says, I will never leave you or forsake you. And at that point, the Christian knows that he belongs to Jesus and that Jesus belongs to him, that Jesus is their God. For they shall return to me with their whole heart. You know, this has never happened, so we know that it's for the future. The people of Israel, the children of Israel, have never turned back to God with their whole heart, not even today, with the remnant that's left there. Of course, they're growing every day because anti-Semitism is so bad. Jews aren't safe anywhere in the world. If I was them, I'd go home too. One of the safest places in the world is Israel, unless you're trying to shoot them. As long as you're not trying to fight Israel, Israel is a safe place for you. And I'll give them a heart to know me, that I am the Lord, and they shall be my people, and I'll be their God, for they shall return unto me with their whole heart. As for the evil figs, the naughty figs. It's for the evil figs, which cannot be eaten, they are so evil. Surely saith the Lord, so will I give Zedekiah, the king of Judah, the last king of Judah, and his princes, and the residue of Jerusalem that remain in this land, and them that dwell in the land of Egypt. Remember, I told you before, the siege was complete. The road south was still there. People were still fleeing to Egypt. Verse 9, and I will deliver them to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth for their hurt. Because they wouldn't obey me. They wouldn't surrender to Nebuchadnezzar, nor would they return to me. They had two ways. They could save their lives by either returning to God, and later they could save their lives by not returning to God, but surrendering to Nebuchadnezzar and going into captivity. He even gave unbelievers a chance. He gave people who had no faith a chance to save their hides. God is long-suffering to usward. Man. And I will deliver them to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth for their hurt, to be a reproach and a proverb, a taunt and a curse, in all the places whither I shall drive them. And they are spread all over the world unto this day. But like I said, they're going home. The Jews, that is. If I was a Jew, I wouldn't be anywhere else but Israel. I'd be in either Tel Aviv or Jerusalem right now. And I would never look back. I wouldn't care what I had to sold or what I had to give up to get there. Because I would know that if I was a Jew in Israel, that I would be safe from my enemies. A Jew in the United States is not safe from his enemies. A Jew in France is not safe from his enemies. A Jew in Ukraine or Russia or just about any place else in the world is not safe. Anti-Semitism is at an all-time high. People hate the Jews because they're Jews. The reason they hate the Jews is because Satan hates the Jews. And the reason Satan hates the Jews is because they are the chosen people of God. Nothing has changed. They're still God's people. Are they saved? No, but they will be. Tribulation's coming. The temple will be rebuilt. Jesus will return, and he will sit on the throne of his father David, and he will rule with a rod of iron for 1,000 years, and the law shall go forth from Mount Zion. God says, and I will send the sword, the famine, and the pestilence among them, till they be consumed off the land that I gave unto their fathers. Until they are consumed off the land that I gave unto their fathers. Do you notice that he didn't say until they're consumed off the land that I'm taking away from them? That they're being consumed off of Nebuchadnezzar's new land? That they're being consumed off of the Assyrians' old land? That they're being consumed off of Persia, Medo-Persia's future land, or Greece's future land, or Rome's future land? No. Till they be consumed from off the land that I gave to who? That I gave unto them and to their fathers. The Abrahamic covenant of the land is everlasting. It doesn't end. There's no expiration date. That property belongs to the Jews until the kingdom, and it will belong to the Jews during the kingdom until the destruction of this world. And I don't know what their place will be in the new heaven and the new earth. I expect we'll all be the same then. Because God will be all in all. And there won't be any sin anywhere. There won't be any rebellion anywhere. There won't even be the possibility of sin. because there'll be no more flesh. There'll be no more world. There'll be no more devil, because he was cast into the lake of fire where the beast and the false prophet are. And he'll be tormented day and night there forever and ever. He gave the land to Abraham and his seed. And in his seed shall all the nations of the world be blessed. And that's through Isaac, and then through Jacob, and then the 12 tribes. And the scepter shall not pass from Judah all the way down to the Lord Jesus Christ. He is who was alive and was dead. Behold, he's alive forevermore. And he's coming back to judge the quick and the dead. You need to be ready.